Welcome to Campfire Conspiracies, where the fire is warm but the stories send a chill down your spine.
Wait, did you hear that? Hi, this is Summer.
And this is Sam.
And we're looking forward to slowly returning back to society.
Yes.
The slow creep towards normalization.
Yeah, Australia is finally lifting their restrictions slowly in places.
Yeah, we all are just at different rates.
Just at different rates, yeah. And where we live especially has been going pretty lenient, which is good.
Yeah.
Slowly. Kids are all back at school for the most part, I believe. Which I'm sure they're all thrilled about.
More the mixed reactions from the parents after having to teach him for 5 weeks. Yeah.
But, things are finally
going back to normal.
Slowly going back to normal, which is great because my birthday's
hopefully
in a
not
couple
too
months.
normal. Oh my God, of course your birthday.
Yeah. I want people to be able to come over for my birthday. 25 is a big number.
Quarter of a century. You can have your quarter life century crisis.
Quarter life crisis. Because I'm going to live to 100, apparently. You don't think so?
No, you're in excellent physical condition.
3 days ago, there was an article on space.com about...
Space.com.
Space.com.
Yep. Alrighty.
There's an article about how 8,500 or thereabouts US Air Force pilots or just members of the US Air Force
right
have volunteered to be members of the Space Force. That was my reaction. Yep.
Volunteered, huh?
Volunteered, yep.
How crappy are their jobs that they want to join the Space Force?
I think it's something about being part of history.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you honestly, do you think there will be a single flight through Space Force?
You know what it is?
What?
It's all Steve Carell on Netflix. They were like, yeah, I want a piece of that action. One of them wants to be the guy that handles Steve Carell's tweets.
What about the monkey trainers?
Yeah.
The dog trainer.
Oh yeah, spoilers. I mean, we've only watched the first episode, so we don't really know what has gone on. But yeah, if Space Force is anything like what I imagine that show,
I think it's good.
Is going to be.
I think a TV show was more successful, honestly, than I think Space Force will be. All right.
Though stranger things have happened. I mean, Trump became president, and he's able to run for a second term.
What?
Yeah. Where have you been? Speaking of Trump, on Facebook, I saw today a GIF that someone had done of Trump, and then Bigfoot.
Yes, all right.
Yeah. Next to each other. Different clips, but like they'd just superimposed them next to each other in the one GIF. And the way that they were walking was exact. Like it was mirrored. Like I watched it over and over again and like probably got a little bit obsessed, but like they even turned heads at the same time.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, they probably slowed down Trump's footage or even slowed down Bigfoot's footage, but like it was so like on point that I'm convinced that, I mean, it just shows me that Trump is just he's just a hairless ape.
He's just a hairless hairy man.
He's a hairless ape.
He's a hairless hairy man.
He's an orangutan.
See, that's just being mean to orangutans.
Yeah, but it's also being mean to Trump. I just thought it was uncanny how much of a resemblance he bears to Bigfoot. And it was.
And speaking of segues,
It was just it was just a coincidence that I saw it today as well. That it came up on my Facebook newsfeed today, when our subject today is cryptids, and specifically
hairy men,
big hairy men, from around the globe. So yeah, with that, Summer is starting today. It's her turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you are talking about Yowies. Correct?
No. I decided to do Bigfoot. Didn't I tell you?
Okay, well, this is going to be a very one-sided conversation.
So I am talking about Yowies, Australia's Bigfoot. I've loved them for forever. One of my favorite cryptids. When I was much younger, around 5-6 years old, I thought I had a Yowie encounter.
Yeah?
Yeah. At the time, I lived kind of further out and went to this small country school. There was a large storm drain out kind of the back of the sporting field. And there was this story that there lived a monster deep inside the drain. If you were brave or stupid, or really a matter of perspective, you would go down there and try to find the monster. So I was brave once, yes, and walked slowly, maybe slightly shivering, because it was really cold and damp in there. Definitely was not because I was scared. I made it far enough in that my friends, kind of egging me on, shouted that they couldn't see me anymore. So I put on my little flashlight. They shouted that they saw the light. Cool. I shone the light around. Nothing really of note apart from maybe just a bit of graffiti. A little bit of graffiti that went right over Little Summer's head because it was kind of graphic. But Little Summer didn't understand that. It was penises.
Oh. I was like, graphic what?
Little Summer didn't understand what those round balls. But when I shone my light towards kind of the darkness down the tunnel, I saw a figure. I was frozen in place. Never taking my eyes off this figure, I tried to call out to my friends. All that came out was this kind of strange kind of noise. The figure moved, obviously not liking the sounds. And that's when I started to properly scream. But still kind of frozen still, which was just great, just paralyzed with fear. I didn't have kind of a thought in my mind apart from terror, but when I was asked to describe kind of what I saw, it was completely covered, in brown hair and kind of glowing red eyes, and it was so tall. It was crouched right down, but its head still kind of touched the top of this large storm drain. Anyway, somehow I found my feet and I sprinted out of there to my friends who did not believe me, even though the whole point of going down this storm drain was to find the goddamn monster.
Mm.
And
Wait, so this was at school?
At school. In my little school uniform.
I hate to be that person, but how do we know it wasn't just a man in like those like leaf covered things with some binoculars looking at children?
Very true. It could have been my first pedophile. I don't know.
What?
Well, binoculars looking at children, hon. What else?
No, I know, but like the way my first pedophile, it sounds like the children's book. It's like or like the my first.
Yeah, that was kind of the point, my love. Teachers didn't believe me either. I do not remember his kind of position at school or anything, but one person did believe me and told me about the local Yowie legend. He told me I had seen something most people never would, and it made Little Summer kind of feel special and make it worth the terror and disbelief of people that having this experience.
So how old are you?
5, 6.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So Little Summer.
Little Summer. Since that time, I've had such a soft spot for these guys and just cryptids generally, but not wanting to discount the testimony of children, I don't believe the memory.
Right.
I can kind of still think back, and I do remember it looking like a dang monster, not like someone in a costume or anything. But I was so terrified. Memories are often distorted, and with my absolute terror of this monster down the storm drain, I think my macabre imagination was kind of already on high alert.
Yeah.
But my belief in undiscovered flora and fauna and kind of that love of dark tales has been cemented by this experience.
Hence the podcast.
Exactly. So that is my tale of woe.
Of woe.
Of woe. What I want to ask you before getting into kind of further detail about Yowies, how would you describe a Yowie?
Well,
like, what makes them different to you to say a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch?
See, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know you keep joking about the fact that I grew up in the UK, so I don't have a rich Australian culture.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you do that, but yep.
Well, okay, you keep hounding on it and calling me a pommy because of it. But I knew about bunyips and stuff, but I didn't know about Yowies. The only sort of Bigfoot or anything I knew was Bigfoots and Sasquatches, which are the same thing, and Yetis and the Abominable Snowman, which are the same thing, and things like that. So I didn't know Yowies existed until fairly recently, or that there was Yowie lore or whatever.
Yeah.
Whether they exist, remains to be seen, because again, haven't seen them, haven't really looked much into them. But from what I do know about the lore, their fur is more of a grey as opposed to like the brown and black that the Yowies that the Bigfoot are known to be. And I don't know, because it's not cemented in every thing that I've read, but I've read that they've got fewer toes or even more toes, things like that. So, but that's just different people with different methodologies and accounts and stuff of it.
So yeah, that's kind of one of the interesting things about Yowies, is there's actually a few different kind of Yowies.
Okay.
Here in Queensland, we have the Quinkin or the Jorabinda. In parts of New South Wales, and my truest apologies if I mispronounce these, Jurwara, Mirawin, Pudakan, Gulaga, and Thulaga. Seriously, I'm so sorry if I mispronounce those. But interestingly enough, as far as Aboriginal lore goes, there isn't a Yowie. We really don't know where this name came from. There's thoughts of it being mispronounced, like moi, and it actually comes from the Yahoo, another hairy man in Australia. Also that it was maybe a mispronounced location that maybe Yowie was in, like Yarri. And also, I love this one, maybe Aboriginal people were taking the piss out of people destroying their homes, their livelihoods, well, literally killing them.
I would.
Yeah, like kind of good on them.
Yeah.
Of all these different Yowies, hairy men across Australia, a lot of them are described quite differently. There's one that was written about in honestly kind of a terrible account. But in 1842, by a man named Robert Holden, he said that the Yahoo was described to him as a tall man with white hair hanging down over his features. He had limbs that were of extraordinary length, talons, but this is kind of one of the creepiest bits. His feet were turned backwards.
What?
Yeah. The assumption that it would always look like he's going in the opposite direction.
So essentially when you're following Bigfoot or Yowie footprints,
you actually need to be going the opposite direction. Yeah.
He's doing it to draw you away from him.
Yeah.
That's how they've remained hidden for so long. It's because they've been drawing people in the opposite direction.
Mm.
That's cool.
But on the kind of opposite end of this scale, there's little feet. So they're 5 foot or smaller. Tailless is something that's often described when I don't really think of a lot of different big feet around the world having tails, but okay. More of a black or a darker color to them, including a bit of red on them, maybe around their chest, their throat, that kind of thing. These are a bit more restless and have often been identified more from white people as a juvenile Bigfoot. When actually it seems to be that there's all these kinds of breeds, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, all these different kinds of breeds of different big feet around Australia.
It's funny that you mentioned that actually, because I don't think I wrote it down, but when I was doing research on the person who I was talking about with, and am going to be talking about with mine, he mentions that the one that he comes face to face with looks no more than 15 years old. Like he carbon dates the age of like a teenager. Like
right.
It looks to be like a 15-year-old, sort of like, because he was looking back at like a humanoid face with facial hair, but because of the, I guess, the wrinkles or lack thereof, he, assumed it to be around the age of a 15-year-old.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just, another breed or another species.
Yeah.
One thing that I really did find hard, the wealth of information about Yowies, about these hairy men of Australia, or hairy people of Australia, is most of these tales, even if they are Aboriginal ones, are taken from white men.
Yeah.
It was really hard to get away from anything that wasn't white men. So I wonder how much of even the stories that say they are from Aboriginal Dreamtime have actually been told properly.
Yeah.
Which is, I appreciate, is actually a big concern.
Well, because you know what happens when the white man gets the book. Look at the Bible.
Depending on which Aboriginal Australia country you are taking a tale from.
What do you mean by country?
The different countries of Australia, like tribes.
Oh, do they refer to themselves as countries?
Yeah.
Oh.
So depending on which Aboriginal tale you're looking at, these hairy people, these Yowies could be so just kind of different people that would live not with Aboriginal people, kind of very separate.
Right.
But they were aware of these people and would usually stay clear.
So they'd be like not necessarily outcasts, but they'd be like outsiders from
the perspective of Aboriginals,
Not necessarily from a neighboring tribe or anything, but they would be.
I guess, well, they probably would, be considered like that, a neighboring tribe maybe.
Yeah. Or in the same way that we have like nomads and stuff, people that sort of like go off the grid, it would be.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yowies are nomads.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's not wrong. So one of my thoughts reading this, about the fact that, that they're tribal, they have families that existed, I suppose, harmoniously, or actually sometimes not harmoniously with Aboriginal people. Sometimes it was more, leave them the freak alone.
Yeah.
They would actually tell their kids, it was kind of like the Grimm's tale, like,
right,
know those people, stay away from them.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Or know those animals, that kind of thing, stay away from them. Bad.
Sort of like how you tell your kids a fairy tale, like a ghost story or something.
Yeah.
To sort of keep them in line and
Especially the one with the backwards feet. That would work on me.
Yep.
Um,
Just like my dad used to tell me that if I did bad things, I'd go to hell.
So a lot of Yowie hunters look at them and look at things like, look at their footprints, look at ways they make markings, little tripods made out of sticks, the way they claw at trees, that kind of thing. And that would make me think, a traveling tribesperson signaling certain things to other people. So in that way, that might hark back to them being kind of a tribe. Aboriginal people and Yowie hunters alike have described them as not necessarily as quiet. On the other side of that, sometimes violent and aggressive. Like I said, some it would be there's that animal, there's that tribe away, and then others it's stay away from them, beware.
I guess on the quiet side as well, though, like if you think about it, there are places that have not been inhabited by people, and the animals there don't see humans as a threat. So they don't run away scared.
No.
Or they don't retaliate. So in that same way, some tribes of these Yowies may be in that sort of boat. Like they haven't been in touch with humans for hundreds of years or whatever. So they've sort of grown accustomed to being alone. So they don't see a threat necessarily. But then others on the same side, what's this new species that's coming up and sort of tearing up an area we're threatened kind of thing. And then that's why they'd retaliate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to go through a few of the accounts, the sightings people have had throughout the centuries now, but I'm not gonna, especially as I know you've said that you've actually got kind of a lengthy story.
Yeah.
Cool. And I honestly am so freaking looking forward to talking theories with you about big feet, hairy people. So I won't talk too much about them. Some of the notable Yowie hunters have included the legendary Tim, the Yowie man.
Timmy.
Yep, awesome guy. Rex Gilroy, who his house is just littered with information, footprints of Yowies. Just he is the encyclopedic knowledge of everything Yowie. And Dean Harrison, infamous for Australian Yowie research. Please check out their website, www.yowiehunters.com.au. I say that because you can get lost, absolutely lost in this site. Not only will it tell you the different evidence of Yowies, including footprints, that kind of thing, it'll also set you up so you can become a Yowie hunter too. Honestly, like forums on the different kind of tech you'll need, what to look out for. Like I was saying before, what evidence would they leave behind, as in claw marks on the trees, they kind of make these structures, well, it's said that they make these structures, tripod structures out of tree branches to indicate where they're going. Live trees being cut down from quite a height and bent into a particular direction, all these sorts of things. They also have this great map of Australia that has all kind of the different Yowie sightings.
Cool.
So yeah, definitely New South Wales, Queensland, that's where the majority of the sightings are. And yeah, you can report a Yowie sighting. It's just such a great site. I had so much fun. I had so much fun just kind of, especially on the forums. Even when I was just like, the hell are they on about? It was still so much fun. So I would definitely give that a check out, guys. These men have all had experiences have all cited Yowies, as has obviously quite a few people. Like I said, if you want to have more of a look of all these people, definitely go to that website. If I may kind of end, though, on one thing for Sam, there's a few kind of hotspots in Australia of where a lot of sightings have been found.
Yeah.
One of them is a place called Woodenbong.
Mm.
And when I saw that, I thought of you.
So Woodenbong, where's that?
New South Wales.
Oh, so we're going to go on a road trip.
Road trip.
Woo. Cool. Speaking of road trips.
Right.
If we want to talk about who I'm talking about, if we want to go see who I'm talking about, then we are going to have to go all the way to America.
Yes.
Which is a bit more than a road trip. In the US, there's the Sasquatch, which is also commonly known as Bigfoot. Tales of Bigfoot have been around since the first sightings in the 1950s. So probably not as long as tales of Yowies, but, good 70 years. People who claim to have seen a Bigfoot describe it as a large, muscular, ape-like bipedal creature. So that means that they stand on 2 feet. Although they have been known to, when they want to be fast, they sort of gallop like a monkey does on its knuckles.
Ooh.
Yeah. Bigfoot stands at roughly 6 to 9 feet tall when fully grown. Is covered in hair that is usually black, dark brown, or light brown with a reddish tinge.
Yeah.
It's said that the size of a Bigfoot print can be as large as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide. Some of these large footprints that have been found even have claw marks, which leads skeptics to think that the prints came from bears that may have slipped when making the tracks in the soft mud. In this episode, I wanted to talk about a man named Tom Burnett's own encounters. I recommend reading his book, Bigfoot, Exploring the Myth and Discovering the Truth, which he co-wrote with fellow Bigfoot enthusiast Rob Riggs. So it starts off with Tom Burnett first seeing Bigfoot when he was walking along his property line, which connected to the Mackay Mountain, which is part of the Pisgah National Forest, which spanned 500,000 acres. The Bigfoot was only 8 feet away from him. This area behind Burnett's property had large rocks, rough terrain, and there were no roads leading in or out, so not many people had been in the area, not even hunters, which I think personally is why the Bigfoot got so close to the property, because it wasn't scared. In the moments before he saw Bigfoot, he'd heard something running towards him from the forest. 2 very distinct sounds. His initial thought was that it was a bear or a herd of deer. Either way, he was done for, so he stayed in his position. The sound stopped suddenly and he looked around, not seeing anything at first. But he figured a bear or a herd of deer wouldn't stop so suddenly, so it had to be something else. He grabbed the small .25 caliber pistol in his back pocket for more comfort than anything. A bullet from this pistol would do little more than graze whatever it hit, and that would just make whatever it was mad. So it was literally just a security thing.
Right.
Suddenly, from his side, he began being pelted with small rocks and stones that he'd been piling all day at the bottom of his property.
Really? There's actually one of the sightings for Yowies. Yeah. This guy said that, yeah, he was being pelted by rocks too.
Yeah.
Huh.
Tom mustered up what little courage he had in him and tried to talk to this unknown creature. But the more he talked, the more stones were thrown his way. He turned slowly to see if he could find out what his assailant was. What he saw stunned him. No more than 8 feet away, peeking out from behind a red oak tree, was a very large black head, its eyes stuck on Tom with amazement. It continued to stare, unmoving, not blinking, for 45 seconds. The face looked half human, half ape, and Tom guessed it was young, probably only 15 years old. like I said before. It was at this point he decided he should leave, so he did. He even told the Bigfoot, okay, I'll leave now. He'd now seen a Bigfoot, but he didn't know what to do with this information.
Yeah, well, what are you supposed to do? Call the police?
He decided he should start to plan a course of action. This beast had probably been what had eaten his dogs.
Yowies have been known to do that too.
They're cousins, aren't
What?
He had a few dogs because he owned quite a bit of property. The dogs had been kidnapped one at a time over a few months, and he'd found them all a few days after they disappeared. So each one within a few days of disappearing. Bones had been picked clean. There was no way Tom would suffer the same fate. He was not going to be dragged off into the mountains, never to be seen again. So he decided he would make the Bigfoot his friend. Yeah.
I want a Yowie friend.
Yeah, right?
More the like the Quinkin, like the
little tiny ones.
Yeah.
In the next few days, he did his research. He wanted to know which would be the best kind of rifle to have. I know it sounds weird to be talking about rifles right after he said he wants to befriend the Yowie.
American.
Well, he wanted it just in case things went tits up. Because
American.
He settled on an Australian hunting rifle. A .303 caliber bullet rifle with an accurate range of 400 yards.
Yep, that means a lot to me. Yep.
I figured this would, fly over your head. It flew over my head too, but yeah. The gun just made him feel safer, but he wasn't a fool. He knew the creatures weren't afraid of him, and for that reason, he was afraid of them.
Right.
Yes. He tried to tell his mum what he'd seen, but she brushed it off as crazy talk, until one night, not long after his first encounter, he was home alone with his dog. So he still had a couple of dogs, but, well, at least one.
Please don't let this be a John Wick situation where I need to get very, very murderous at a Bigfoot.
I think you'll get angry, but you won't get... He had a fire burning outside and music playing on his property, which drew the Bigfoot in. He could smell their stench as they lingered on the property line, so he put out the fire, turned off the music, and bolted inside. There he stood, back flat against the hall wall as the stench got stronger as they drew closer. Tom's dog began whining. He looked down the hallway through the back bedroom window where he was met with piercing eyes. The Bigfoot turned slowly and walked away, and Tom made a run for it, escaping into his car from the porch, leaving his poor dog to fend for itself.
John Wickin.
He drove off and stayed the night at his mother's home, and when he arrived home the next day, he saw muddy handprints. What he saw in particular were short, stubby fingers, large palms, and a huge thumb almost 7 inches long.
Ew.
Yeah. These handprints went all around the house, including where he'd seen the eyes out the window.
Around the house or in?
Around the outside of the house.
Okay.
So the dog was fine. Yeah.
No thanks to this little fuckwit, though.
No. Tom had read the stories of Bigfoot taking loners far off into the mountains where the victim couldn't find their way home. And for this reason, he was convinced that they were trying to take him that night. Because of this, he decided his best course of action was to try to feed them.
Yeah, so some people, Australian Yowies, they decide to feed them too.
Yeah. He went to grocery stores and bought cheap produce. He'd get fruit, bread, other bakery items, anything the grocery store was throwing out or selling at a reduced price. He set up a system where he'd put the food out on the mountain, pick up a rock or tree branch, and beat it 3 times on a tree, telling them where the food was. This system began working within weeks. Just
reminds me of hauntings for some reason, like...
Yeah.
What is it? Mocking the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
To knock 3 times.
Unfortunately, they'd started to become dependent on the food.
Yep.
Instead of hunting for themselves, they'd wait around for Tom to deliver food to them. They started to wait closer to the property line for the food, so Tom tried to ease them further back. He wanted to get footage of them, sure, but in their natural habitat, not in his own backyard. Tom's biggest fear, however, was not that the creatures would become dependent on him for food, and lose the ability to forage like they had for centuries before, but more that if word got out of what he was doing, someone with half a brain cell would try to hunt the Bigfoot and drive it away before Tom could finish his studies of the creatures. He tried working with others in the past, but most turned out to be paranoid, gun-toting idiots. They didn't know how smart the Bigfoot are, how they can tell your intentions before you get out of your truck, how they can attack you before you know that they're there. Tom had been shown how easily they could get him way back in 96, when they feigned an attack on him for getting too close to an area that they didn't like people being in. Tom heard a shrill bird-like whistle, then a booming sound against a tree behind him, so he ran. As said before, he was respectfully afraid. He had every reason to be. He believed that they do eat people, and may even be cannibals. It's no secret that people go missing when hiking in Bigfoot hotspots every year. Maybe that's why they're never found, because they get eaten. Tom had also figured out that Bigfoot have several different ways of communication, both with one another and maybe even with him. They would pick up fallen trees and smash them against another tree when they were hungry. When Tom walked through the forest whistling a simple tune, something would replicate that tune perfectly. Another time, as he got home from work, he heard what sounded like his beagle barking high up in the mountain, but when he got to the porch, his dog was there waiting for him, staring in the direction that the barking was coming from, looking confused. Tom believes the Bigfoot was mimicking his beagle and that they can mimic almost anything.
So they're like lyrebirds.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Maybe what we think lyrebirds are actually.
Yowies.
They're muted. The lyrebirds are actually mute, and every time they open the mouth, the Yowie's just like...
That's a convoluted conspiracy.
Aren't all conspiracies convoluted?
No.
Tom claims that over time, he formed a sort of kinship with the Bigfoot. Whenever they felt in danger or were angry, they would beat on his house to let him know they were displeased with the hunters or strangers hanging around. One time, after having a barbecue with his mother and a neighbor, after they'd left, he put the fire out by urinating on it, which he says has initiated a response from the Bigfoot in the past. That night, he heard what sounded like Indians making complex and loud bird calls.
Okay.
Like Native American Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what? How would you know that?
Well, it didn't sound like actual birds. It sounded like them mimicking
a person, but how would you know that they're Indian Americans?
I don't know. That's just what he said in the book.
Okay.
Maybe he had his TV up too loud while I was watching an old Western. Over time, Tom realized he'd inadvertently made it his duty to continue his study. The way he sees it, he could be the only person who has the opportunity to develop this kind of relationship with what could essentially be our ancestors, a prehistoric man, as he puts it. Not just one either, a thriving social group. His biggest obstacle in all of this has been his fear of them, not knowing what could happen to him. He is worried that there would be misunderstandings on their part, that they may think he wants to join them for some reason, or even the females thinking he would want to mate. He was also scared that a dominant male may think he's trying to assert himself on his territory or pride, and Tom may end up getting killed for it. Even with his fears, though, Tom believes that the Bigfoot is very undeserving of the other names given to them, ones that associate him with evil, names like the Abominable Snowman and Swamp Devil. These names were given to them by people who don't understand the creature, names given because of the fear they have of them. Tom plans to continue his studies even if it kills him. He believes the world should know the truth about the Bigfoot.
All right, so it is now theory time.
Yes.
My favorite time. It's usually only something I just do within my own stories.
But because ours are so similar, we figured it would just be easier to mash it all together because they are pretty much the same topic, just on different continents.
Theory number 1. Evolution from apes, from like Homo sapiens.
Yeah. That's, I think, the strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like within this theory, people talk about survival by being that these cryptids evolved from a survival by being hidden from their predators.
Yeah.
So they're like on top of the food chain kind of thing. Maybe not, but that's how they've somehow survived is being hidden.
I like the evolutionary standpoint because it's the most plausible to me, because if you look at how an ape walks, like a chimpanzee, the way their back is hunched over, their arms, or even just the diagram of from ape to human.
Yeah.
That is essentially like how I see
most big feet, hairy people of the world. They're relatively up.
Yeah, but they walk with a slight.
I do too.
A slight slouch. So, and I think that's in large. That's largely because of how long and heavy their arms would be.
Yeah.
Again, monkeys have long and heavy arms. You know, the bigger ones at least. So that would be where the connection comes from, and that's why they would like. I don't think that they are. I don't think the evolutionary line goes directly chimpanzee, Sasquatch, human. I think
I'm glad that you don't think that.
There would be like, you know, Neanderthal and
So have you heard? I really don't want to keep butchering names. Gigantopithecus.
Gigantopithecus. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Gigantopithecus.
Thank God we don't need to learn Latin in schools because we would just suck.
Yep.
But yeah, that they are evolved from them or even just them.
Yeah.
Because they're height. But for so many reasons, I think that's, and many other people think that's totally bogus. But one of them is a lot of big feet are just kind of a bit bigger than us.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not huge. And like I talked about, there's also little feet.
Yeah. Like they average.
Don't forget the little feet.
They average.
Can I just say though, one thing I love about research is I would giggle every time a Yowie was measured in feet. I was like, wait, our feet are theirs.
Yeah.
Small things. But if we're looking at especially the way big feet hunt, the way they seem to be tribal for some, you know, different ones, that would go into maybe having, descending from apes in some way.
I like the idea that they could be, I don't know if this is a theory for anyone at all, but I like the idea that they could historically have been the tribe's hunters.
Oh, yeah.
Like they would be the ones that
only gatherers evolved into humans?
No, like they would have evolved too, just at a slower rate, which is why they're still around. Or they evolved in a different direction.
In a different direction. Yeah, so I like the different direction.
So like that's why we see small ones now.
They're small ones.
Because they would have...
I want to adopt one of the small ones.
Because they would have, you know, shrunken down to a more human height.
Shrunken. That's what happened. They were... the little feet were originally big feet, but they just shrunk.
As evolution goes...
They sweated it out.
all that fur, they shedded and sweated and just...
All right.
They went from swole to small.
Oh. All right. Next one. That they are not natural, they are supernatural.
Yeah, this one I don't buy so much.
I love it from a Dreamtime perspective.
I do,
like protectors of the earth. Always a big fan.
But you can be a protector of the earth and not be supernatural.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Sam saw me get a little angry as I was researching different theories about Yowies as being supernatural beings. I am all for theorizing about spirits who, protect the earth. Fae folk revolution is coming. Love it. But this theory seems to exist online only to explain away the fact that there is little to no physical evidence of Yowies.
Yeah.
So I don't know about for Bigfoot, but this seems to be an excuse, you know? So like why is there no droppings? Why do we never find bones or fossils or anything of these creatures? Oh, no, they're supernatural, so you won't see any of that. Not even ectoplasm, though, so like, what?
Which is why I think I lean more with the evolutionary tale, because there are some, like elephants, and I know elephants and monkeys are very different, but elephants, I'm pretty sure I remember buried their dead.
Yes. See, but even if you can easily bury your dead. Sorry, no, that's of course of course.
You can easily bury dead. What do you need? A shovel, a couple of duffel bags.
Well, elephants have the tusks.
Not to mention the long dangly thing.
What I mean is, if you look for evidence in, say, if you look for evidence of bones, of droppings, of fossils, of elephants, you will find them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you can simply bury your dead or not so simply bury your dead. There'd still be evidence. So, yeah.
Bring out your dead.
So for me, I think it's... And they also bring it up, as an Aboriginal tale. I think bring that up kind of is just to bastardize those stories. If they were trying to, if I thought they were being respectful, I'd probably also not be getting angry and telling Sam, no, can't do this anymore. No, not doing it. One thing I kind of liked about this theory, though, through most tales, they are considered to be somewhat peaceful, or at least not wanting to be around people, until you label yourself a hunter. And then they seem to get aggressive, which appeals to me on, a few levels. So I had this dream that they were supernatural beings, and they started halting mining operations and stuff like that. So if it was true, I'd be really into this.
There's just these 9-foot hairy things with protest signs just walking around, just grunting to the tune of, no, we won't go.
Exactly.
Although they can mimic.
Yes.
So
I really don't like when people try to describe a Yowie call, because it can sound like all sorts of rubbish. I still don't have a clear idea of what they're supposed to sound like. Next theory, that they're not of this world at all.
Yep. I've heard people think that they were dropped off, other worlds. And some people even link that with the evolution process, because it's like two theories in one. Some people believe that the reason we are the way we are is because of generations of interbreeding and stuff with different aliens, and Sasquatches and Bigfoot and Yeti.
So many theories in that,
are all part of different, like the differences and stuff. That's why some people even go as far as to say that that's why some of us have different skin color, which I think is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But, like there's so many like wild and honestly fucking stupid theories as to why. Again, I'm always going to be thinking with evolution, no matter how much I love aliens. I just don't think aliens fit into this one.
Well, okay, so from Yowie's perspective, they are sometimes described as being able to cloak themselves. So people that have sighted them have said they just disappeared.
Right.
They could still hear them and kind of track their footprints, like hearing them, see their footprints sometimes, visually be able to see them being made, but not actually see the Yowie. Which to me, predator.
I don't know why you said that. I don't know why you said that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. When you were saying they can cloak themselves and you can see their footprints, for some reason all I could think of was there's 9-foot Yowie or Bigfoot trying to like squeeze into Harry Potter's invisibility cloak and like 3 foot of leg and foot, and that's why they're tracking him.
It's actually just Hagrid's.
They can just see like his fucking feet just sticking out and is walking along, and he's just like, I'm scary. This is like the most conspicuous I've ever been, and it's just like, no, we can see you.
And thing is, Hagrid would love to be thought of as a cryptid, like as in he loves cryptids, so to be misidentified.
Yeah, he did have a hippogriff, so he loves magical and mythical creatures.
He does.
Yeah.
So to be one.
Yeah, so to be one. I mean, technically he is. He's a half giant.
Aren't giants still people?
Well, technically, so are Yetis and Sasquatches. Yeah, but
if you're looking at the evolutionary theory.
But okay. His mum was a giant.
Yes.
And his dad was a human. Which, don't ask me how the fuck that worked out, but...
Do you want to talk about Shrek with the dragon and the donkey?
No.
All right. So moving on before this just becomes a Harry Potter podcast. Lastly, the collective unconscious theory.
What's that?
Alrighty. So there is several big feet around the world, including, Christ. I'm going to have to pronounce shit again.
Do you want me to read them?
Yes, please. I'm being a coward and not pronouncing them. Sam, please.
So in New Zealand, they've got the Moiha. That's not right. Moha. Russia's Almasty Menk. China's Yeren. Himalaya's Yeti. Malaysia's Orang Minyak, which to me sounds like orangutan and yak, which would explain like really hairy gorilla, kind of, well, really hairy orangutan. And I suppose if it's orange, that would be where they get the orangutan from.
We can definitely talk about that, Yowie, at another time. I'd love to. I mean, another Yowie, another Bigfoot, another hairy person. Because usually the rough translations of these are hairy people.
Yeah.
Or hairy men,
Brazil has the Mapinguari, and Indonesia has the Orang Pendek.
So why is it that so many cultures share similar tales? Say, not just these hairy people, demons, dragons, the concept of hell, all these cryptids. The idea of collective unconscious, in a nutshell, this would be my definition. The soul of humanity was shared between us. That's the theory.
Yeah.
That we can somehow share these parts of our soul together collectively. The theory with this is that the hairy man, the hairy people, was a part of our, say, own fear of our own animalistic unknown.
Yeah.
Because it is very interesting that somehow many cultures have such similar tales, such similar cryptids, not just big feet, not just hairy people, and that it has to do with that part of our soul we all share that we have.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. I was actually thinking, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but and I think it might tie in with collective unconscious. It might even be collective unconscious in a nutshell. You know, when we were talking about like Ouija boards and like when they conjure up spirits, just by thinking that they imagine that the Ouija board's moving and stuff,
right?
That they force it, that they cause it to move because they think of it as moving and they channel that energy to, So it could be that, you know, a traveling salesman or whatever went to Asia, heard the stories of this big hairy beast.
So definitely when it comes to places like America and Australia, you could definitely say that.
Yeah.
Since, you know, the genocide of the indigenous peoples.
Yeah.
However, there was some tales, indigenous tales before then, when they didn't have any contact.
Yeah.
These stories exist before these cultures had met physically. So yeah, this theory comes from a psychoanalyst called Carl Jung. It was his theory, and it's actually something I do believe in. Soul is the word I'm using because I feel like it's an easy way to explain.
Yeah.
But just that unconscious level that we all have these shared thoughts, ideas. Yeah. And that our animalistic unknown selves create these hairy people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask? So, we've went through the theories. Do you believe?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm.
All right.
I mean, I don't know for sure that they're still around.
See, I agree. So that's probably where I'm at. I think they did probably exist in some form or another.
Yeah. So whether
do they exist now?
Yeah. So whether Tom's story is correct or if he's just some guy that's, having a little bit too much fun with the Mary Jane, I don't know. I couldn't tell you whether they are still around or not.
There's so many sightings of them, but yeah, by now, where's the evidence?
Yeah. And
I'd really appreciate people are going to say, Summer, there's a heap of evidence.
You just told us website where we can see it all.
Yeah, please have fun and go on there.
Yeah. I
footprints with footprints in Australia. I think you touched on this too. The toes differ.
Yeah.
The way, the way the padding is all different. It's just like,
and that could largely be
the different species.
Different species or even age. You might be able to tell the age,
what you grow a little toe.
Well, no, I was meaning more like the harshness of the footprint because you've been walking on the stone and everything, so your foot is coarser for long because you've been doing it for longer. So a younger foot would be smoother. A person that has worn shoes, if they were to walk around barefoot for a day, their footprint would look completely different to a person who has never worn shoes in their life, because the person who's never worn shoes in their life, their footprint would be harder because it would have had to adapt so that it can grip and hold on properly, right?
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
So a younger Bigfoot would have a smaller and softer foot with a different
but that still wouldn't change.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't change the amount of toes or claws or whatever. Well, I mean, it might change the amount of claws.
Talons seem to be mainly on the hands for Yowies.
Well, that's another thing. That barefoot that they saw could have been a Bigfoot running, because remember how I said that it's been reported that they sometimes go on all fours to run to get up to speed. So those claws that they saw that were a barefoot could have been the Bigfoot's paw or hand, but at a sort of paw sort of shape, because it would have been gripping the knuckles going down to sort of dig into to get
a pace.
A pace. I mean, but so I don't know for certain. I mean,
no one does.
It's impossible to know for certain whether they were even real and whether they're alive today still. But I do personally believe that they were at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe
too.
even as recently as in the last 100 years.
Don't know about that, but for me, yeah. All right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that about wraps this episode up. Next week, we are doing Area 51 adjacent.
Yes.
And next week is the final episode of the season.
Final episode. So please be voting. Competition will end, obviously, after next episode. So please get in and vote.
Not to pat myself on the back, but the designs are coming along nicely. They will be up, hopefully, by the time we upload the last episode of the season. And that way, hopefully, it'll entice you to, give us a listen more and vote, and then one of you will be lucky enough to win the t-shirt of your choosing. To vote, you can go to our socials on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Yep. You can also email us at campfireconspiraciespodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to this big feat episode of Campfire Conspiracies. We look forward to talking about alien conspiracies next fortnight. Happy hunting, guys.